Well, tonight, the world is expected to reel from new tariffs, with U.S. President Donald Trump threatening American trade allies with renewed tariffs. What is happening to the U.S.? That is a question that analysts are asking tonight. And what impact will this have on the global economy? And here at home, the country is reeling from high fuel prices. The government has issued a statement clarifying on what caused a spike in fuel prices on Monday. We have more details, which is coming up during our 9 o'clock bulletin, and you better stay for that, ready for that. But for now, welcome to the show. We are talking about inside government. Tonight, we want to focus on the practice beyond borders, and we are referring to architects and quantity surveyors. I mean, I know, the debate has always been who should you work without? Is it a quantity surveyor, an engineer, or an architect? And tonight, we want to debunk that myth that the three of them are critical in any construction. And that's why the debate tonight will focus on the role of the three. But of course, I told you, you're watching us live from our national headquarters here at KBC. My name is O'Brien Kimani. At O'Brien Kimani is my ex-handle. At KBC Channel 1 is our ex-handle as well. And of course, you can always get through to us. We are waiting for you to talk to us. I told you the conversation tonight. We want to look at the role of quantity surveyors, architects, as well as engineers in the built environment. And tonight, I am joined by two seasoned professionals in this sector. I'm talking about quantity surveyor Emmanuel Miruding. He's a quantity surveyor and a member of the Board of Registration of Architects and Quantity Surveyors. He's here with us tonight. Thank you very much indeed, Bona QS.
Thank you.
Very well. And of course, we have architect Marilyn Musiemi. She's an architect as well as a member of the Board of Registration of Architects and Quantity Surveyors. Marilyn, thank you very much indeed for your time. I want to first of all to set the ball rolling by asking, I want to turn to you, a QS. Explain to us the role of a QS in the built environment.
Thank you, Brian. That is a very interesting question. What is the role of a quantity surveyor in a construction project? Simply put, if you want to build, and the Bible says, who is this fool who will want to build without first finding out how much it will cost? He will start, run out of money, and people will laugh. So the quantity surveyor is the one who manages the cost of a project. And then also manages the contractual relationships between the builder and the developer. In certain jurisdictions, they are referred to as estimators. In certain countries, they are referred to as cost engineers. So when an architect designs and provides a drawing, it is the quantity surveyor. Okay, it is the quantity surveyor who will work out the cost and advise that this scheme will cost so much money. So that is at the estimation stage. Beyond that, it is a quantity surveyor who will prepare what is called the bills of quantities that is used to procure a contractor. So it is these bills of quantities that will define the scope of the work, will define the contractual relationship that is going to be between the developer and the contractor. And as work goes on, it is a quantity surveyor who will evaluate works that has been done for purposes of reimbursing the contractor as he continues to build. And should it happen, and God forbid, that there is a dispute, which in most times do happen, considering that buildings are complex, they're uncertain, and they involve a lot of money, then it is a quantity surveyor who will participate in the dispute resolution.
Very well. I have had a situation whereby, in some instances, people refer to quantity surveyors as the accountants in the project.
Correct.
Is that a good definition of a QS?
That is a very good definition. In fact, it's a very good definition. In fact, at the end of a project, the quantity surveyors renders what is called a final account. So it has a relationship really to do with the money. And he is the one who actually will account to the owner of the money, how the money has been spent.
Very good. I'll be coming back to you, but I want to hear from Architect Musiemi. Explain to us the position and the role of an architect in the built environment.
Right. The architect is somebody who is trained and registered to design and supervise the construction of buildings. The registered part is very important because beyond your training, there is a lot of liability that comes with designing buildings and supervising their construction. I'm sure we're all aware of the collapses that have happened.
Yeah.
So an architect needs to be held accountable by a certain body. I think we'll mention that later. So an architect takes your idea, O'Brien, the dreams that you have, and converts them into a technical output that can actually be built by a contractor. So what we do, the drawings that we put together is what is then quantified by the QS, and he then tells us what the cost is. Beyond just designing and supervising construction, an architect is also somebody who is responsible for the community, because everything that we do, our work, school, church, all our lives are within buildings. So we are responsible for the health generally of the community and the outlook of the community. So that, in a nutshell, is who an architect is.
So O'Brien wants to come up with a building or maybe a complex. So for me, I just have an idea of what I want to construct. So who do I go to first? Do I go to an engineer, a QS, or an architect?
Now,
or a contractor?
Ideally, you should come to an architect first.
An architect?
Yes, because they are then able to translate that idea into a buildable concept. Because you'll say O'Brien wants a house that is of his stature. You know, a statement as such is enough for me to be able to think, okay, what is O'Brien's stature? And then convert that into a building. So the first point of contact is an architect. And once I have translated your wishes into a brief or a concept that is able to be detailed, then we can go to the QS and say that for me to be able to put up a studio, for example, for an organization like KBC of this size, he needs to tell me how much it's going to cost based on the things that I have envisioned within that studio. So the architect is the first point of contact. Then the QS will be able to quantify that. And then later, other consultants, such as the engineers, come in to be able to detail their specific aspects, such as the structure and the mechanical, the electrical, that make the building now work. Yeah.
QS, is it advisable for you, even when you're starting the concept, to have the services of the three on board?
Yes, it really depends at what stage that you are talking about. At the concept stage, like what Marilyn has just explained, when now a brief is translated into a drawing, and then that drawing is translated into an estimate, you may just need an architect. However, going forward, when that concept and the costing is acceptable to the developer, the developer is the owner of the idea, who is going to pay the money for the building, then he says, okay, I'm okay, I like the design, and I'm comfortable with the cost. Then now the scheme is progressed into more detailed design. Now at that detailed design, then now you have the structural engineer on board, then you have the mechanical and electrical engineers on board, then now you form now the team which now designs the building to what is going to be buildable.
So at this stage, you haven't consulted the services of an engineer?
Yes, not yet.
Not yet.
Also, it depends on the size of the project. Some projects are very large and will need every consultant on board right from the beginning. Other projects are much smaller. If you think about maybe a residential house, then you can start with just the architect, the QS, and progress to the other services. But when it is big, you need everybody on board so that they can consider all the factors around it. When you think about KBC, for example, we would need to think about the transport. You're near a very big transport corridor, so you'd need a transport engineer. You would need somebody to think about civil works because of the drainage around here. So really it depends on the size of the project, and like QS said, the stage at which you're coming to the professionals. Sometimes you don't even have the money, yeah? So you want to be able to put together a feasibility study to see whether you will get the money from a funder. So you then need the whole team to look at the big picture.
In a situation whereby you have to do away with one of the three, who would you be advisable to do away with?
None.
None. What about you, QS?
I think none.
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 Yes.
I mean, there are those who have taken shortcuts, but they are paid very dearly for it. So our advice is you need the services of all of them.
The three of them.
The four of them.
The four. So the contractor?
No, not another stage. You need the architect, you need the quantity surveyor, you need the mechanical engineer, and then you need the electrical engineer. So there are four.
There are four.
There are four. But in even more complex designs like the one she has spoken about, you even now need certain specialties, like you need an interior designer, for example. You may need a landscape architect, for example. Okay? Now that depends now on the complexity of the project. But the key four, you will definitely need. Of course, you are going to ask me, but how about the rural who just build? Okay? In the same way as saying, how come quacks also treat people? So it depends on really on the complexity, the size of the job. And you know, the bigger the size of the job, the bigger the risk.
So you brought in the issue of a residential unit, for example.
Yes.
Here is a builder. You just want to put up your own small unit, let's say 3, 4, 5 bedrooms, somewhere in, I don't know, Kiambu County. Do you still need to hire the services of the 4 professionals?
I would say that it really depends. I mean, if you are looking at a primary school teacher, for example, who has obtained a cooperative loan or maybe 300,000, and he wants to build a house. At that level, they don't even consult architects. Actually, the builders draw for them. Okay, but these are really very light structure. There may be 2 rooms, 3 rooms, for which the risk of failure is hardly there because they have been built and they are there. But when you go to the extent where you want to build a 7-bedroom house, double story, with an upper floor, then it now gets a bit risky for you not to engage an architect and an engineer. So my answer would be, it really depends on the size. And I think that is the key thing. Yeah.
What about you?
I think of it this way. If you have 10, 15, 20 million to invest, you need somebody to steward how you're investing that money. And that is the average cost of a maisonette in Kiambu County, Kajiado, Machakos.
Yeah.
And what the 4 of those professionals do is help you make the best use of that money. Because what happens if you don't have professional advice, it's pata potea, yeah? You're trying, you're not very sure. Most of the fundis on the ground, while they are competent and they have gained experience over the years, may not have the science or the theory behind the things that they do, because they've learned through apprenticeship. They try to pass that knowledge to another project, it could fail. So at the very least, my advice would be consult the professionals. You may not give them a full engagement, but at least consult them and get their advice as regards how you're going to steward your money and invest it. And like QS has said, there are different levels, yeah? So you can tier that engagement with a consultant. If you're investing a small amount of money, then they may just need to give you guidance and not maybe be there full time. But the more the money, the more the risk. And that is why you need that sort of guidance.
Let's, for example, take, the teacher that you talk about, QS. They have gotten a loan, let's say about 2 million, 3 million shillings. They want to put up a house, a residential unit in West Pokot, for example. If they were to hire the services of professionals, how much of the 3 million shillings will go towards paying professionals?
That is a very difficult question.
You can just approximate. It doesn't have to be the real
as we speak, the professional services are actually regulated. So, and legally, that is what they really ought to pay. But from my experience, and when I worked with the government, that was many years ago, the Ministry of Works then, at that local level, had certain standard drawings. So, and what we used to do then is that we would give these people those drawings, because these were government drawings, and they would only pay for the charges for copying and stuff like that. But if they were to pay, I would say the scale of fees is there. They would pay an architect 6%. That is what the scale of fees according to the law. And that 6%. Is what 6% the architect. Then they would pay the QS about 2.5% to 3%.
Why pay the architect 6%?
Yes.
And the QS 2.5%?
Well, it's a little bit more, but these services are actually charged differently. Like, for example, the architect will charge about 4% for the drawings and 2% for supervision. The surveyor will charge 2.5% for making the bills of quantities, 0.5% for estimating, and all those scales are actually in cap 5 to 5. Yes.
So in total, you're looking at about a percentage of 10%.
About 10%.
10%.
Yeah, 10, 12%.
So 10% for 3 years, that's about 300,000.
300,000.
Very well. Let's come to builders. I mean, I know, especially in the rural areas, You have people who have been in the building industry for many years, and so they're even known as engineers, you know, in the villages.
Yeah.
And they have done this business for so long that, you know, they do it alone. Is that legal for you to do that?
Strictly speaking, it is not, because these professional terms, engineer, architect, quantity surveyor, are actually protected by law. And that's why, as I said, who an architect is, I mentioned that they must be somebody who's registered. And the reason why they are protected by law is so that if you do some work and something happens, we know where to get you as an engineer, a legitimate engineer, architect, and quantity surveyor. So I think the term as it is used on the ground is the understanding on the ground of, you know, what the person does. It is a sort of engineering practice, but strictly speaking, the term engineer is actually protected under law. The term architect is protected under law, as is quantity surveyor. So next time you want to refer to somebody as an engineer, maybe just think whether they've gone through and are accountable for the work that they do. If they ran a project for you and it collapsed, where do you take them if they're not registered?
If they're not registered.
Yeah.
How do I tell between a genuine architect QS?
It's very easy. Registration is done by the Board of Registration of Architects and Quantity Surveyors, and the board has a website where you just log on, you put in the name of the person. If it is there, you're good. If it is not there, then you can ask yourself a few questions. The same applies for the engineers. They have a registration board, and if you Google the website of the board, you're able to search for the person that you're looking for.
Suppose I don't have an access to a website.
You can call the number that is of the board. The other thing is you can simply ask this person whether they have a registration or not. They should be able to produce their registration certificate. And why this is important is even for that person who is doing a small project at whatever level at the county requires for them to have approvals. And these approvals are only done by people who are registered. The counties have now partnered with the National Construction Authority, and they are on the ground to make sure that you have at least followed the right path to have your construction in place. So you'll find that a lot of time, even the village elders, and I saw the other day they got their uniforms, they will come and check if they've seen, and they'll ask you, you know, who are you working with? And they're able to tell based on the credentials that you give them.
Very well. Yeah. You know, we're almost coming to the first break of this conversation, but I want to find out these QS. You know, I mean, there are less than 900 registered QSs who are registered with the Board of Registration of Architects and Quantity Surveyors, and those are statistics you can get from their websites. In a country of 54 million people, 55, 56, where construction, where the built environment is developing very fast at an annualized rate of almost 8%. Are they enough?
It's really a good question. And actually, I really remember one time we had this seminar, and we had a speaker, I think from one of the European countries. And he presented a paper where he looked at the ratio of an architect to the number of people, to the population. And it turned out that in Africa, the number is miserably high compared to actually Europe. So the answer is that looking at the...
So we have more QSs per capita?
No. Yeah. We have less.
We have less. All right.
Compared to the statistics that he actually presented. So The answer is that yes, there are not enough quantity surveyor, there are not enough architect. If the population that need to build houses were really had to seek the services of whether an architect or a quantity surveyor, they are not enough.
They are not enough.
Yeah.
Architect, I mean, you're looking at about 1,300 architects registered by BORAQs in Kenya. Would you say they are enough? And also, I also want you to help me understand why do we have more registered engineers than QSs and architects? Is it that engineering is easier or what?
Engineering is wider.
It's wider.
Yes, when you think about mechanical, electrical, marine, there's all sorts of engineering, and that's why there are about 15,000 registered. And that's the simple reason why there are more. There's more diversity within that practice of engineering. Architects,
so the discipline is wide?
Yes, the discipline is wide. It ranges from mechatronic engineering, electrical, all the way to
software,
computer,
civil.
Yes,
civil.
So many types of engineering, and they're all under the same umbrella and framework. Now, when
but
it
we
comes
only have
to
one discipline in the QS. You
Yes.
don't have water QS,
No.
marine QS, you don't have anything like that.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. Yeah. Architecture, you do have a marine architecture, and then you have traditional architecture. You have interior architecture. Sometimes they're practiced separately, but most of the time, architecture, traditional architecture, and interior architecture are practiced together. So that's why we may seem less than the engineers. We are not enough, of course, for the country, but like QS is saying, you find that our services are not fraternized as often as they should be, and it is because maybe people do not understand the value that we bring to the table, which is being able to guide how they carry out the investment and to secure it. So on average, I think we are registering about 200 architects every year and adding them to the market. And they end up in diverse fields within the market. Some of them don't end up in traditional architecture. Some end up actually in construction, in development, and in other branches within the construction sector. So we are not enough, but yet our services are not sought enough. So we're not able to give the service that we should to the country. Yeah.
Before we go for the break, I want to hear things. I mean, you know, in any construction, and when you look at Kenya, I mean, we've been grappling with the issues of substandard buildings, which, with their collapse, you know, have led to deaths. And statistics will tell you that in the last 10 years, more than 200 people have died as a result of buildings collapsing. But the people that are blamed, in most cases, are contractors, the owners, and the engineers. Why is this the case? Yet you have quantity surveyors, you have architects in the picture.
Well, if I speak from having reviewed some of these incidences, you often find that the architect delivered drawings, and in between the delivery of those drawings, their approval and execution, something changes along the way. And that's why a lot of time you'll find that it is either
So
the
who has
owner,
the powers to change your drawings as an architect?
ideally only yourself should change your drawings in consultation with your client. So your client should not change your drawings without your awareness. But what happens sometimes is you will ask me to draw a 4-story building for you, and for some reason you will have a bit more money and you will think, let me do 6 or 7 stories. And then you think, I don't want to go back to Maryland, let me just extend.
Is it legal?
That is illegal.
Illegal?
Yes, that is illegal, because what happens is the considerations that were made for that building, even structurally, can only carry so much. And that's why sometimes you see the collapse. because somebody got plans for a 6-story building, but they decided to extend to 10 stories without consulting the architect or the other professionals. And that's where the problem comes in.
Very well.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll take a break and then we'll come back and continue with more. In case you're just joining us, you're watching Inside Government, and tonight we are focusing on the built environment. We have two very critical professionals in the house. We have the services of a quantity surveyor and an architect. Both of them are very critical in the built environment. You're watching Inside Government. We are live from our national headquarters here at KBC. My name is O'Brien Kimani. We are taking our first break, and thereafter we are coming back with more conversation. Stay right here. Welcome back. You're watching Inside Government, live from our national headquarters, KBC. And tonight our conversation is around beyond the borders, and of course advancing the role of quantity surveyors as well as architects in the built environment. And tonight, for the last 30 minutes, we have focused on their role in the built environment. Now we want to look at where are they positioned in Africa's broad agenda of socio-economic development? And we are talking about the Agenda 2063, because they're just not needed here in Kenya. Africa to develop as a continent, we need that cross-border skill match. And that's why we are here tonight. So we are in the company of QS, or Quantity Surveyor Emmanuel Mirudi. He's a quantity surveyor and also a member of the Board of Registration of Architects and Quantity Surveyors. And of course, next to QS Mirudi, we have architect Marilyn Mosiemi. She's an architect and also a member of the Board of Registration of Architects and Quantity Surveyors. I just want to hear this from you. When you look at Africa, our aspiration as a continent is to become a newly developed continent by the year 2063. The African Union has developed the Agenda 2063, which is a blueprint that is supposed to guide that development. I want to hear this from you. According to the AU, there is a significant shortage of architects in Africa. The numbers, vary from one country to the other. As an architect, can you go and practice in Equatorial Guinea, for example?
Well, yes and no. When we talk about practice and the larger context of Africa, then we begin to go into the space of trade, which is governed by many other things. But under that 2063 framework, we have the Africa Free Continental Trade Area. And what that has done is to open the market for architects in different ways. So you can, there are 4 modes of how you can trade outside. You, as O'Brien in Kenya, can consult an architect in Rwanda, for example, and get designs from them. That is the first mode of trade, which is called cross-border trade. Then somebody from another country can consult an architect who is here. That is called mode 2, where you seek the services of somebody who is abroad. Then the other 2 modes involve you being there physically. A few countries within Africa have opened for mode 3, which is commercial presence. And within East Africa, it is completely open under something we call the Common Market Protocol, the East Africa Common Market Protocol. And then there's the 4th one, which is owner or architect in another country. And that is also open to us within East Africa. And as the board, we've been working towards having that open within the larger Africa framework. So far, on average, there are about 13 countries where you can at least offer your services to the people who are in that country while you're still here. Yes. And I like that you brought in the issue of the East African market protocols. And I know, the African continent is trying to develop, a concept
of market protocols based on what EAC has developed. I know it's taking a bit of time because of various political issues, but help me understand this. Then why is it possible for architect Mosiemi to practice in the US than is it to practice in Africa, where she was born and raised up?
Well, there are many things that play out in that dynamic. First of all, when you think about Africa and our colonial legacy, part of us is Anglophone and part of us is Francophone. So that is one reason that makes it easier to practice in another English-speaking country, because can you imagine translating technical code from one language to another that you don't understand? A lot of things are lost in between. So that is one reason. The other reason is because of bilateral agreements between countries. So the US has previously approached us to have special trade agreements with them, and that may be one reason why it may be easier to practice there. However, it is not as easy as it may seem, because every time you go to practice in another jurisdiction, you have to understand the local law. So as a Kenyan going to practice in the US, for example, I would need to sit examinations there and pass professional examinations. Here, it is a bit different, and when I think about the EAC, it's a very good example because we recognize each other's qualifications. So I can easily walk into or drive or fly into Rwanda, Uganda, and present my qualifications, and they will be accepted because of the relationship that we have. It may be a bit difficult for other countries like Egypt, where we speak a different language, the North, where we speak a different language, and that is the difficulty that is there. So it is not a blanket sort of scenario.
Before I go to the QS, I help us understand things. I mean, you brought in the issue of the social divide, that Africa is divided into 2 or 3 parts. The Arab North, the Anglophone West. I mean, the Francophone West of Africa, and the rest is Anglophone. But as an architect, is it possible? When you're drawing, for example, a French-inspired architectural design, is it the same as drawing a Victorian-inspired architectural design?
It's not the same.
It's not the same?
Yes. Well, you need to understand where it's coming from. Yeah. So when you think about, let me use the common example of a manyatta, you would need to understand why they used the dung to finish the house, why the house was low and you had to sort of bend to get inside. So those little cultural differences, you need to understand them. However, now when it comes to the technicalities of the law within the country, how you operate within the building space, that is what makes it difficult for you to translate into action within another country. So what I'm saying is I can design for a French person from here and it will suit them, but I may not be able to practice in their country in terms of putting that design on the ground because of the legal framework around it. Yeah.
QS Mirudi, let's also get to hear things from you. When you look at the profession of QS, I mean, your role is to develop what we call bills of quantities, and of course give it a price and ensure that that building is constructed within the cost. Is it too hard to do that in a foreign country, for example?
The answer is yes and no. The technique of estimating is standard, whether you are in a Francophone country or Anglophone country. It is extracting the quantity of the work and putting a price. Now, the technique of extracting the quantity, you can do it anywhere. Mm-hmm. The only challenge comes is how do you obtain the price?
Yeah.
So in instances like that, what we have done, and we did it in Rwanda and South Sudan, mm-hmm. is that you have to associate with a local farm that is practicing there to assist with getting the local prices. So in that way, you can estimate. I work in South Africa. Mm-hmm. We have done it in Rwanda, we have done it in South Sudan, mm-hmm. where prices are totally different, but you are able to actually give very dependable estimates. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it is possible.
If it was to be made more simpler for you, for example, to practice in, let's say, Morocco, as a quantity surveyor, what do we need to do as a continent to ensure that there is seamless transfer of knowledge and skills?
Before I answer that, I'll give you a very historical, I would call it a phenomenon, if you like, that years back, just when we left university and we started working, the government of Zimbabwe literally came to Kenya and negotiated with the government of Kenya, mm-hmm. to give them our qualified architects, surveyors and engineers, mm-hmm. to go and work in Zimbabwe. Yeah. And a number of architect surveyors actually were airlifted and went and helped to develop Zimbabwe. A few years later, the government of Botswana, this I remember very well, mm-hmm. through their embassy here, advertised for Kenyan qualified architects, surveyors and engineers to apply to go and work for the government of Botswana. Mm-hmm. And a number of them went to work. Some of them are still working. Some of them have come back. Mm-hmm. And some of them have since left this world. But that happened.
It happened, eh?
Mm-hmm. So this, to answer that question, I think this would be more of a bilateral issue. Mm-hmm. A bilateral issue really between two countries. Like I've just given the example of Zimbabwe, the example of Botswana. And I'll also say this, that after the genocide that unfortunately took place in Rwanda, the country was totally devastated. I remember us going there and the country had bullet holes everywhere. I can tell you for a fact that they are the Kenyan architects, quantity surveyors and engineers that were the first to go to Rwanda and help to rebuild Rwanda.
Very well. And also it's good to highlight that you also have a number of Kenyan quantity surveyors and architects who are practicing in Europe, in US, and of course in Asia. We have about 3 minutes to wind up, but I just want to hear this from you, architect. Are Kenyan architects ready to work outside Kenya?
Definitely. If you Google Kenyan architects in Europe, mm-hmm. they will come up. Turkey, the UK, France, we are everywhere. Mm-hmm. A Kenyan architect is a typical Kenyan. Mm-hmm. Our training is very good, mm-hmm. If I should say so myself, and that makes us prime for all the markets. So what will happen a lot of times is our undergraduates will pursue studies in another country to further their studies and end up practicing there. What also happens is what QS has highlighted is that our practitioners will be headhunted by firms outside. So we have them practicing across the globe. So yes, Kenyan architects are good enough and are practicing on the global scene.
Very well.
Yeah.
QS, are Kenyan quantity surveyors ready to serve in Africa and beyond?
Definitely, the answer yes. I think the first answer would be, are they capable before they are willing? The answer is that the Kenyan cone surveyor is very capable, is as good as any other cone surveyor in the world. And we see a lot of this when we go to seminars, when we participate in competitions, and there's no more living proof than the fact that you will find Kenyan cone surveyors in very many countries. In the Middle East, you find them in South Africa. They are working. Kenyan farms, like for example, Symbion, is doing work in many countries in Africa. They had an office in Botswana, for example.
Yeah.
They did some work in Madagascar. And they're doing work in Kampala. We were doing work in South Sudan, many completed projects, in Burundi, in Rwanda, and so on. So the Kenyan cone surveyor is very capable, and I would want to encourage the practicing cone surveyors to look beyond the borders.
Very good.
There are opportunities there, and they are very capable. The little barriers that are there can be surmounted. They are what she spoke about, the recognition agreements between many professional bodies are making things easier. And I want to say that try it out there. We tried ourselves.
Yeah, and
it worked. That's why we ended up in South Sudan, we ended up doing work in Rwanda, and so on and so forth.
Very good. Well, thank you very much indeed, professionals, for joining us tonight on Inside Government and, of course, sharing those critical insights with the public. Your time is highly appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I mean, we've been talking to professionals in the beauty environment, helping us understand the challenges and the opportunities that lie not only within our borders, but outside our borders. I mean, you've been watching Inside Government live from our national headquarters right here at this KBC. Remember, the Prime Edition is coming up on air next. This is Doreen Aranke as well as John Curium. They'll be bringing you up to speed with the latest in the world of news. My name is O'Brien Kimani. Thank you for your time. We'll do this again on Wednesday, same time right here on KBC Channel 1. Until then, bye.